to begin.
Well, meanwhile, Donald Trump says he's going to appeal his criminal conviction for falsifying business records, describing it as a scam verdict. In a speech at Trump Tower earlier on today, he said there was no hush money. It was a normal non-disclosure agreement, properly categorised as a legal expense.
I'm doing something for this country, and I'm doing something for our Constitution. It's very important, far beyond me. And this can't be allowed to happen to other presidents. It should never be allowed to happen in the future. But this is far beyond me. This is bigger than Trump. This is bigger than me. This is bigger than my presidency.
Well, in home news, Sir Keir Starmer has given the green light for Diane Abbott to stand as a Labour candidate in the general election in July. It's after the MP was suspended over comments she made suggesting Jewish, Irish and traveller people experience prejudice but not racism. For days, the Labour leader declined to confirm whether Miss Abbott would be defending her seat on the 4th of July, but this afternoon, Keir Starmer said she could stand.
She's been a trailblazer. She has carved a path for other people to come into politics and public life. The whip has obviously been restored to her now, and she is free to go forward as a Labour candidate.
And just before we go, let's bring you up to date with events in France, where the authorities have foiled a plan to attack the Olympic Games this summer. We understand a man from Chechnya has been arrested on suspicion of planning to target football stadia, all in the name of Islamic State. In a statement, anti-terrorism prosecutors in France say the 18-year-old young man wanted to attack spectators, security forces as well, and die as a martyr. Well, with less than 2 months to go before the Paris Games, France remains on its highest level of security alert. That's the news. For the latest stories, do sign up to GB News Alerts, scan the QR code on your screen or go to gbnews.com/alerts. Time now for Headliners.
Thank you, Polly. Hello and welcome to Headliners, your first look at the next day's newspapers with 3 comedians. I'm Leo Carson. Tonight I'm joined by a man who's wrapped in bacon. It's Paul, the People's Gammon Cox.
Hello, my little Russias.
And next to him, a man who's salivating at the sight of all that bacon. It's Lewis, the People's Nutritionist, Schaefer.
I don't like it. It's too much. It's too much attention. And I wore my best tie, my New York tie with the Chrysler Building and the.
Are you from New York?
Triangle. I am from New York, and
Well, we are really getting a fashion parade tonight, but let's have a look at tomorrow's front pages. The Daily Mail says Trump rages at Biden's fascist state. The Telegraph leads with Johnson. Trump is victim of a hit job. The Times has Starmer. I'll create wealth. The Mirror says deluded, deranged, dangerous. That's Trump again. The Express has at-home test to turn tide on prostate cancer. And finally, the Daily Star has Boff's Heart E.T. And those were your front pages. And let's have a closer look with Saturday's front pages, starting with the Daily Mail, Paul.
Yeah, no surprise really with the Daily Mail. Trump rages at Biden's fascist state. And he called him that in his 40 minutes speech this afternoon. And for me, forget all the drama, OK? This is a very serious moment, I think, in US history, certainly modern history. It's quite clearly now that the justice system has been politicised. So what we've got now is a rage against political opposition. Now, we can park for a minute. We can afford to park. You know, Trump is a character whose character is brought into question a lot. He's done some things that many politicians would never do, maybe some upstanding people would never do, but he does appeal to a huge demographic within the United States of America, and I don't see this working against him. Now, 34 counts and found guilty, and Lewis will explain it much better than I, but the legal system over there has got lots of different layers, OK? Yeah. And he is right down here in terms of layers. There seems to have been a misdemeanor that's been blown up in order to convict him at this specific time. And I think that's the worry. Yeah. I'd be worried if this happened to Biden, let alone Donald Trump.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem to set... I mean, it's definitely setting a precedent. You know, this has never happened before. And it seems to be backfiring as well, Lewis. I mean,
well,
Trump
I think we think it's backfiring here at the GBNews studio. It's like, this is crazy. But I think it might actually work. It's
But Trump is already 6 points ahead in the polls, six extra points ahead. I think he was already slightly ahead. And he raised, in 10 hours, he raised $39 million for his campaign. You
know what? I hate to say it. In America, that's not much money. I mean, the guy who's the prosecutor, this Alvin Bragg, he's got $41 million. That's how much his net worth is 41 million, according to the you.
No, that's true. Well, that's absolutely true. How on earth did a DA achieve that wealth?
Yeah.
I mean, look at him.
But do you think...
Yeah, he's fat.
But do you think this could... Because a lot of voters are waking up to the fact that, they're seeing... they're being denied the option to decide for themselves at the ballot box. Instead, it's being decided in court. And one of the options, Donald Trump, who's very popular, as Paul says, with a lot of voters, is being taken away.
People can say that, and I agree with it. But at the same time, remember in the American Civil War, the people, these states down in Alabama, Mississippi, and South Carolina, they had the right to leave. But the North said no. In a way, this is a new battle of the American Civil War in the 1860s.
Yeah, perhaps it is. And I think that's a really interesting point, because what happened yesterday, if it hadn't happened already, it's definitely happened now, is the seed has been sown for civil unrest in November. That's when the real judgment happens on November the 5th in the States. And whatever happens now, whichever way it goes, the seed has been sown. Whichever way it falls, there's going to be huge unrest.
Well, we've already seen unrest. We've seen unrest from the left through the Black Lives Matter riots and Antifa riots, which are, basically the far left street militia of the left.
Yeah.
And we've also seen it from the January 6th riots, where right-wing people, Trump supporters, took action. But there does seem to be different rules applying to each side. With the January 6th riots, they got the maximum possible sentences, whereas the BLM rioters were, they were excused in the media. Some of the rioters even got compensation for being arrested. It was insane. When Biden had classified documents, that was seen as okay. When Trump had classified documents, that was suddenly a bad thing. And even with this, even with paying off hush money to somebody a politician has had sex with, I mean, it's not a new thing in politics. Bill Clinton did it to Paula Jones. Paid $850,000, I believe, and she wasn't as good looking as Stormy Daniels, because Trump can get the deal. He's the art of the deal. But also John Edwards. John Edwards was a presidential candidate, and he paid off, I think it was close to $1 million in hush money. And it was also when he was running for election, so the same rule that they've tried to hang Donald Trump with, and successfully pegged on him in court.
You're making too much of this thing. I don't think it's the left or... It is... This one issue is like, is it okay for Democrats to cheat, but it's not okay for Republicans? That's not the issue. The issue is we're at war. I've said this for 2 years. I've been in this program. We're at war between the Democrats, or you could call them the Team World people, the left people versus the right people. And I think right now we're sitting here thinking that Donald Trump is going to make it home and win. But there are lots of people in America who are like gloating over this. They're so happy.
Yeah, and there are a lot of people here gloating over it. And there are good reasons to dislike Donald Trump. He's not for everybody. That's not the point, though. Yeah. The point, I think, is... Sorry, Leah. I think the point is that, if it can be done to him, it can be done to you. Yeah. This is what people forget. Yeah. If you... who's to say the table's turned? Yeah. Let's say he is everything they say he is. If he's to get into power... and he enacts revenge in some way, that's going to be a massive problem as well.
And I mean, like you say, if it can happen to Donald Trump, it can happen to anybody. It's not like Putin stopped with just jailing, the people at the top of the political parties that oppose him. And not Bill Clinton, Boris Johnson has come out and spoken about it as well.
Yeah, because he's on GBNews, because he picked a side. I mean, the guy, I don't know. I don't want to say anything bad about the guy. The guy might walk, is going to walk.
What did he say?
What did he say? He said that Trump is a victim of a hit job, and he is a victim of a hit job. The fact that whether you would want Boris Johnson being on your side, I'm not sure that you would want that. But at the beginning of the day, at the end of the day, is that they've been against the guy. We know they've been against the guy. But sometimes when a guy is bad, you sometimes have to use devious things to get under, and that's what they're doing with him.
They are doing devious things, and the problem is, it's as if they're getting away with it, but it's as if they think we can't see it.
Yeah.
I mean...
And it's not popular with the voters, apparently. I mean, it's probably that they've almost, through the repression of Donald Trump, they've sort of made him into this exalted figure that now everybody wants to win.
I was watching Ben Shapiro, and I'm seeing this guy is like basically drooling over Donald Trump and how important it is. And he wasn't. So.
Yeah. And we've got quite a sinister video of Joe Biden. So Joe Biden was asked about the Donald Trump court case. Let's play this video.
Mr. President, can you tell us, sir, Donald Trump refers to himself as a political prisoner and blames you directly. What's your response to that, sir? Do you think the conviction will have an impact on the campain?
No. We're not sure if he's smiling like that out of some sort of sinister glee at his rival being taken down, or if he's smiling like that because he's just about to get some applesauce. Either way, I'm not reassured.
It was a look of the man who felt the warmth of a wee in a swimming pool. That's what it was. I mean, you can paint it whichever way you like. It doesn't. What is very notable to me is the way that they have reacted, the Biden team.
Yeah.
Because it's been very easy for them.
Yeah.
They've gone, well, you know, this is a matter for New York judicial system. Of course, it works in their favour. But the fact that they've slightly distanced themselves gives me an impression they do have an idea that this might not work for them.
Yeah.
It might not entirely work for them. So if they indulge in it too much, it could come back to bite them. And I think
absolutely.
it will do. I think he's been martyred to some degree now.
Yeah.
And every single thing he's saying now is resonating.
Yeah.
Now, we all know that we've got this polarised voting demographic in the States where you've got people who hate Trump, never Trumpers, and you've got people who love Trump, always going to love Trump. And they've got these people in the middle. Now, a lot of it only takes a certain... There was a poll I saw where about 10% of them didn't like it, but 90% are thinking now, wow, you know, I don't like the look of this.
Yeah.
It's the land of the free, isn't it?
I think Paul, you've got to be careful, and Leo too. You got to be careful because we're over here. We don't know what's going on in America, and I think British people don't have a clue. It's so weirdly different. It's so much. They took this country, the Americans went over there, and they made it better. And it's so.
Look how he set it up. 300 years later, you've got an orange old man versus the oldest man to live in history with power, who talks to his socks.
Yeah, but he doesn't have power. Joe Biden is being controlled.
Well, thank God he is.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't trust that guy.
But who's controlling him?
Yeah, that's the real question. Who's going to be controlling him for the next 4 years? Well, I guess we'll find out. But moving on now to the Times, Paul. What have they got in the cover?
Yeah, well, this is about Israel, actually. Israel offers Hamas a three-step peace deal. So President Biden, this is his news today, and that was the press conference we saw him wryly smiling at, has announced that Israel has offered a comprehensive roadmap to an enduring ceasefire in its war with Hamas in Gaza. Now, step one... it took a long while to get to that. Step one is that Israel wants to make sure all its interests are protected. Phase two would involve an exchange and the release of all remaining living hostages. I'd like to see some of the dead ones given back as well. Phase three is a major reconstruction plan for Gaza. Yeah. And their point that they're making is that it's not for all Israelis. Some people within the Israeli government would like to see a war and an occupation of Gaza. President Biden here believes he's brokering a deal that would see these three steps see peace.
But, Lewis, we keep seeing these deals. I mean, the Palestinians had 8 offers, I believe it is, over the decades to have their own two-state solution. You know, the Camp David Accords, they were offered 98% of the land they asked for. It looked like an amazing deal, and Yasser Arafat, turned it down. And it seems like the leaders of the Palestinians always want war.
I think they once had this huge giant country next to them called Israel, which we consider tiny, but they're an even smaller thing. So if once they sign off for this, is they've given up the dream, and so of course they're not going to agree with this. These people, the Gazans, they lost their home. I feel for them. It's like something out of what's that thing called? What's that movie called with Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit or whatever? Isn't that the movie?
No idea. It sounded like you said Laura the Rings.
Is it like a Biden press
They've
conference
lost their home. They want their home back.
Yeah, but then the Jews lost their home as well. They were pushed off that land by the Romans, and, you know, it's passed through various hands through history. I think it's time for Scottish people to have a go. Yeah,
well, I think there are very few Gazans, very few Palestinians who remember the Roman times.
Right. Well, yeah, but I mean, who remembers the British Mandate? That was almost 100 years ago.
Which was trying to help.
Yeah, it's always trying to help. The amount of bad that's done through people trying to help. Anyway, that's the front pages sorted. In the next section, a right-wing politician is targeted in a deadly terror attack in Germany, and Diane Abbott will be running for Labour. Let's hope she gets her shoes on the right feet this time. See you in a couple of minutes.
Sorry to laugh over your link, man.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is about the Biden administration kind of resisting calls from Harry's lawyers whether or not this ongoing thing about releasing his visa records over the alleged, in Spare, he admitted to taking, remember his memoir Spare? He admitted to taking cocaine, marijuana and magic mushrooms. And a lot of people are saying, was he honest and truthful in his application, in his visa application? You have to say, have you taken drugs? He said no, and then in Spare he said yes. So I think this is absolutely fascinating. They're saying they can't release these records because there is a stigma attached to law enforcement records. Yes, there's a stigma attached to that, but then don't say... everybody else, if you write yes on a visa application, you will be chucked out of the United States. You will be denied entry. So I think this is fascinating that on this issue of whether there is a stigma for Harry or not, he can have his law enforcement records not released into the public domain.
The bottom line is, do we want him back?
So what's interesting is it seems to be becoming a political dividing line in the States because Biden is the administration trying to do Harry a favour by keeping them under wraps, but Trump has promised that he will, the file will be made public if he wins again.
Trump's been very strong on this. He said, if Harry lied, then he's out.
The one thing about America is their politicians make ours look sane. Which is saying something.
I'm slightly confused about this whole story because, OK, sure, Prince Harry has said this. How many pop stars, rock stars, movie stars, like every
the difference is, well, I don't think it's just British. I think millions of Brits, to be fair to them, lie on the form every year. Millions of people from around the world lie on the form every year. Not, of course,
I'm not going to name any pop star specifically, but I would be mightily surprised if any hadn't indulged in what...
Yes, but of course they haven't given written evidence in their biography that they have, and that's the difference.
Britain's election channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, every Sunday at 9:30 when I'll be interviewing the key players in British politics and taking them to task.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial.
With an upcoming election looming over Westminster, now is the time for clear, honest answers.
I agree.
And that's precisely what I'll get.
Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's election channel.
Welcome back to Headliners with me, Leo Kearse, Paul Cox and Lewis Schaefer. And we're hosting a Night with the Headliners live. It's a stand-up comedy show, so it's not this show live. We're going to be doing stand-up comedy. It'll be much better. And you can join us for this evening of comedy with Andrew Doyle, Simon Evans, Josh Howie and me. For more information, scan the QR code on your screen right now. If you're on the radio and you don't have a QR code on your screen, then visit gbnews.com and there's all the information there that you need. So I hope to see you there. Anyway, The Independent now, and Keir Starmer has flip-flopped and will let Diane Abbott run for Labour. If she's going to be running, let's hope she gets her shoes on the right feet, Paul.
Yeah, exactly. Starmer says Diane Abbott's free to stand for Labour in the next election in a U-turn. I'm not sure how much of a U-turn it was. It just took a few days. So after days of back and forth about whether the veteran MP would be blocked, the Labour leader confirmed she will be able to contest the election as a Labour candidate. And he praised her, Sir Keir, as a trailblazer. Diane Abbott was selected, he said, in 1987, the first black woman MP. Now, this woman has been in politics for nearly 40 years.
Yeah.
And I've not heard one commentator of any colour say that she has any redeeming feature other than the colour of her skin. Now, obviously, this is a very sensitive subject, and achieving something as becoming the first black woman MP in the UK in the mid-80s, with all the Brixton stuff going on, that was fantastic achievement. But 40 years of politics, and all we can say about this woman is that she still has black skin. And it brings into question a number of things, because she has made some huge boo-boos, by the way. She said that Chairman Mao did more good than harm. Chairman Mao did more good than harm.
Well, I mean, this is somebody who, you know, was in Momentum. She's a Corbynista, so, I mean, Mao's probably a bit more
well, exactly. And she said
capable.
that Jews and the travelling community see prejudice, but they never see actual racism. She said a number of things, right, that place her in the absolute crazy basket.
Yeah.
That for most right-thinking Middle England, Middle Britain people. And I'm all for her running. I don't mind whether she runs or not. But I understand why Keir Starmer has tried to just get those basket cases and push them to periphery.
You know what? You are so wrong.
Thank goodness for that,
Because
Leah.
this is not about Middle England. This is about Islington. She's in Islington. Let her run. But you know what? The fact is that the Labour Party, the higher-ups, have a decision. They make the decision whether she's running or not. And that's why this country has a very piss-poor political system.
She's not in Islington. She's in Hackney North and Stoke Newington.
OK. I'm sorry.
You were doing so well then. And I almost felt wrong. The thing I would say about the Labour Party, though, it isn't the higher-ups. They're split at the higher-ups. You've got the leader of the Labour Party, which is Keir Starmer, who's elected leader, but you've also got the union-led part of the party.
Well, Angela
Rayner. And all of the people down that channel said, no, Diane Abbott should run. So straight away, before we even get a Labour and Keir Starmer government, we see the break straight down the middle of the party.
But every political party... Sorry.
No, go on.
Every political party has breaks. You know, you pick a party.
Not the Tories.
Not the Tories. You know, every political party, like my political party.
Yeah.
You know.
What's your political party?
The Taliban. I support how they treat women.
You mean the Green Party?
Well, you gotta pick a party and you gotta go with it. The truth is that Keir Starmer, this is my guess, he doesn't want to deal with these people. She's buddies with Jeremy Corbyn. He doesn't want this.
Well,
trouble.
they had a fling. They went on a camping holiday in France, which, man, I wouldn't want to unzip that tent and take a big snip. They went behind the Iron Curtain on a cycling holiday. She's not the most patriotic of MPs. She supported the IRA against Britain. I mean, I'm amazed she can get elected. But yeah, she's got an astounding majority. So I think here, you know, he's looking at the seat. He doesn't want her to run against the Labour Party.
No, of course.
So yeah, and it's a smart thing to
It probably is. Yeah. I just think that 40 years in politics, there should be something more important than the colour of your skin.
It's not about her being black. It's about her and Corbyn and the fact that she's not Keir Starmer's.
Yeah.
No, it's not about the colour of her skin. That's my point. I don't know why every commentator pro-Diane Abbott can only muster that up. Well, as a redeeming feature.
I think it's time for her to move on and become an accountant. Anyway, The Telegraph now, and one of Britain's top COVID boffins, said net zero should have the same urgency as lockdown. So no urgency at all then, Paul.
Sorry, yes. Sir Patrick Vallance, remember him from the COVID days? He wasn't a sir then, of course. Calls for net zero to have immediacy of the search of the COVID vaccine. So old Patty Vallance is back on the scene and he's thrown his support behind Labour's green energy proposals, warning that the race to net zero should be treated in the same way and immediacy that we did the COVID vaccine. Two things are going on here. Quite clearly, Patrick Vallance is vying for a highly paid advisor job under the new Labour government. Yeah. And the second thing is he sold his soul to this green net zero nonsense. And I call it that every time, because net zero by 2030, if it was to be fulfilled, would probably kill more people than it would save.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, actually, when temperatures rise in the world, more people's lives are saved because more people die from the cold than from the heat.
Yes, and that's exactly true, which is why you shouldn't have any of those ice baths. You know,
I don't.
Well, you certainly shouldn't live in one.
And basically, like I was out today, I took a picture on the subway platform on the underground block. I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't do it. But everyone was like dressed up wearing winter clothes. Why? Because it's freezing. Yeah. And this. Go on.
No, I was just about to say, the Met Office have come out today saying this is likely to be the warmest May ever on record, which is absolute nonsense. I mean, we've got to the point now where the Met Office have become like that sort of Nazi propaganda, where they tell you stuff that's clearly not true.
And they show you a 14-degree heat map, but it's all bright red. But it's like, oh my God, we're all gonna die.
But you know what I heard? I heard the purpose of this kind of thing. We know that it's a lie. Everyone knows that it's a lie, but it's to embarrass us and humiliate us by telling us lies that we have to go along with, so that later on.
So this is how communism works, because I mean, under communism, you're told lies, and yet it just deactivates your brain. You don't know what you can trust and what's true anymore. And this is the same thing. All the solutions for climate change. I'm not denying that climate change happens.
I am,
but I don't think the solution is massive amounts of communism.
No, not at all. And Patrick Vallance here has sold his soul to the devil. There will be some people that would praise him under his role during COVID.
Yeah.
I think the jury is out to somewhat, but he did seem a man of principle. This, to me, is a nonsense.
Yeah, it's jumping horses. Anyway, the Mail now, and a bearded man went on a stabbing rampage in Germany today, knifing an anti-Islam politician. Now, I don't want to jump to conclusions as to the motives. He could be Amish, Lewis.
Yeah, well, this is good news. A knife man stabbed a well-known Islam critic and police officers, and then he stabbed the police officer and several bystanders, but they jumped on, who did they jump on? They jumped on one of the police came and jumped on one of the victims.
This is insane in the video. This guy's trying to stop the stabber, and the police turn up and see the guy trying to stop the guy who's stabbing people and jump on the guy trying to stop him stabbing people. I don't know if he'd just been on diversity training and thought, oh, there's a gammon.
But the good news is that this guy's been shot dead. So it might affect maybe one other person who'd be willing, not this guy, but the knifer has been shot dead.
But not before he stabbed the policeman. It was like a farce. The policeman grabs one of the victims, one of the guys trying to stop the attacker, and then while he's wrestling, while he's got this guy on the ground, because the knifeman is suddenly free, he stabs the policeman in the neck and then gets shot dead.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is harrowing. But here, the nuts and bolts of it, Leo, are that we do have a Western, enlightened European continent full of people that believe in free speech, and free speech that enables them to criticise religion.
Yeah.
And in this case, they're criticising Islam as a religion.
Yeah.
And what they've managed to fill that space with is a minority of strong believing Islamist cultural types that just will not accept that, come what may.
Yeah.
And the trouble is that assimilation will never take place because we have, within that enlightened European space, we have a government, the EU, that is on the side of the minority.
Yeah.
So they're not on the side of enlightenment, they're not on the side of free speech, and because of that, they've got their eyes firmly shut. And we've just got this perfect storm where this is going to keep happening.
Well, we're seeing a lot of attacks on the AfD, the right-wing party in Germany that wants to, clamp down on immigration and the Islamification of Germany. And, this is exactly the sort of thing they warn about. And yet, here are their supporters or their people getting stabbed by what's apparently an Islamist. So it kind of corroborates what they've been saying. But the state is still trying to ban the AfD. They've got politicians from the AfD being prosecuted for pretty spurious charges as well, just like Trump. So this might be a sort of headline event that makes people sit up and take note.
Well, I don't think it will, because we've made it a politicised right versus left movement, and it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're on the left of politics, if you say you're on the left of politics and you support this and just call it lone wolf or mental health...
And blame the victim for being anti-Islam or right-wing...
then you are a huge part of the problem. Now, I don't think you mean to be part of the problem, but you've got to wake up.
Yeah.
Because if you don't wake up, you're going to see this more and more and more.
Yeah.
I think it's simpler than that, Paul. You're making it too there is a war, the original war. Let's pretend there's no immigration coming into the country, and it's just us. It's a war against Team World is a communistic world, and the other side of it is like Go Germany is more like what we kind of believe in, like the nation, and that's the battle that's going on. In the meantime, up comes from the south comes the Islamists, and the Team World doesn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And
But I mean, it's going to bite them because, I mean, in Iran, for example, the leftists allied with the Islamists to overthrow the Shah. And then once the Islamists were in power, they didn't thank the leftists. They jailed them and executed them. So, I mean, at least that'll be fun to watch. Anyway, we're at the halfway point. Coming up, the Pope is called sexist, Nicki Minaj is arrested, and Madonna is topless. But relax, we don't have any footage. See you in a couple of minutes.
Hello, very good evening to you. Here's your latest GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. There will be a bit of rain around at times this weekend and also some cloud, but for many, a decent amount of fine, dry and sunny weather because of an area of high pressure that's building in from the west. Any rain that we saw today across the southeast, that's now clearing away, so a dry picture here. However, we are going to see some cloud pushing its way in from the east across eastern parts of England as we go through the night. Further north, some spots of rain across parts of Scotland, perhaps Northern Ireland too, but most places staying dry. Some clear skies, especially towards the west, under which temperatures will just about dip into single figures, perhaps a little bit lower than that across parts of Scotland, so a chilly start here for some. Otherwise, as we go through Saturday morning, and it is going to be quite cloudy across parts of the southeast, and we do need to watch out for a few showers, and some of these could turn heavy as we go into the afternoon. Much sunnier further west, though some cloud building as we go through the day. A few spots of rain then for parts of Northern Ireland, perhaps Northern England, southern Scotland where the cloud's thick enough, but for many it is going to be a dry picture and there will be some sunshine for some. Not all of us, some of us will be stuck under a bit of cloud, particularly across parts of Northern England, the far south of Scotland. Here the cloud is likely to linger through a big chunk of the day and we could see a few showers developing as well. Even elsewhere, 1 or 2 showers are possible, but any that do develop will be pretty light and short-lived and most of us will avoid them. There will be a decent amount of sunshine for most of us, however, and with lighter winds than today, it should feel pleasant enough. Temperatures generally in the high teens or low 20s. Perhaps some mist and fog patches first thing on Sunday morning, and then we are going to see some cloud and some drizzly rain pushing its way in from the northwest. Some of that rain could turn a little bit heavier as we go into the afternoon. However, towards the south, across many central southern parts, it's going to be largely sunny and feeling pretty warm with that sunshine too. Some more changeable weather to come next week. Enjoy your weekend.
We're GB News, and we come from a proud tradition of British journalism.
That's why I'm so excited to be here. It's something so new.
The first news channel to be launched in Britain in over 30 years.
Launched to represent the views of the British people.
To go where other broadcasters refuse to go.
How did you find out about the story in the first place?
Launched with one aim.
To be the fearless champion of Britain.
It's an absolutely fantastic atmosphere here.
This is GB News.
GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News is Britain's election channel.
And when the big stories break, we're tackling them on Britain's newsroom. When we disagree, and we disagree a lot, it's even livelier than normal.
We don't disagree that much.
We do.
His comedy, though, is revolting. I knew her, unlike you.
That explains Beverly Turner's temperament.
It's a bit frosty in here, isn't it?
He'll have one of me one day.
For dartball practice.
Britain's newsroom on GB News. Weekdays, 9:30 a.m.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'd just like to announce that Paul's jacket has received a record number of Ofcom complaints. We've got the Times now with a new cancer vaccine. They mean it vaccinates you against cancer. It doesn't give you cancer this time, Lewis.
Well, we don't know what's going to happen. It's from the NHS, and you know you can trust those people. New cancer vaccine for thousands of NHS patients, and they're doing a study where some very respectable organizations we can trust, Pfizer, Genentech. These, they're using mRNA. What is that? What it is? They use the same technology they used for the COVID thing.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It's not incredible.
You must be delighted.
No, I'm delighted because
they're using the same technology that's used to develop the COVID virus, but it makes sort of personalised vaccines to attack tumours in your body.
Then they're not vaccines. A vaccine is where, basically whatever a vaccine is. But a vaccine is where they take the element, they put the element on, and in the element, so it's... and then
it protects you. Yeah, that's a good point. It's not a vaccine
So it's not a vaccine.
It's an injection of cancer-killing stuff.
Until they know what causes cancer, what the right cause of cancer is. They have no right to try to cure it.
Well, I think it's good that they're trying to cure it because I mean, it's like if people have got cancer and they're fast tracking people onto this trial, Paul. It sounds amazing. I mean, in terms of like scientific progress, if this is going to save people's lives from what is a horrible and terrifying disease, that's fantastic news.
Yeah, I mean, there's no arguing that. I think that's true. The opinion I'm about to share is not mine. Steve N. Allen came up with it last night. Sadly, we didn't do the headliner show last night, so I'm going to use Steve N. Allen's opinion as my own. He gets frustrated because he's actually clever and a scientist, and he says this is not a vaccine in the same way Lewis does. Lewis is much cleverer than people give him credit for. Yeah. Primarily, it's a treatment because you need to have had the cancer. So
they sampled the DNA.
You've had the cancer, and once you've had the cancer, they then can take that and essentially provide you with a treatment which becomes a vaccine for
But like as Paul talks about, he talks about having cancer. What exactly is happening? The mitochondria in cells are alive. And they're duplicating because they're sick, because they've been damaged. They keep on duplicating. So the only way to stop this from happening is to basically stop feeding the mitochondria in the cells.
I'm sick of people blaming incels for everything. Anyway, The Guardian now, and someone in the audience at a Madonna concert is suing because toplessness on stage was pornographic. As it's Madonna, it's probably a trip hazard as well, Paul.
Yeah, I'd have thought so, yeah. Madonna sued for pornography without warning at LA concert performance. So Madonna has been sued by a concert goer at her Celebration World Tour who alleges that Madonna produced pornography without warning and he was forced to watch topless women on stage simulating sex acts. And I think this is a very expensive way for this man to tell the world that he's gay.
Yeah. Was it a man?
Yes, it was a man. Now, look, what did he expect? I've read this whole story and I'm thinking, well, there were some legitimate complaints in it. It was late, it was hot, OK?
Yeah, I read the whole story thinking the Kia Forum was a car and Madonna just didn't have the star power anymore and she was doing a gig in a four-seater car. And no wonder it was hot.
This is a non-story because when you go to Madonna to see that, I mean, I mean, maybe now she's not that hot, but she's had like 40, 50, whatever years of doing this kind of ridiculous things. Everybody knows, and he must have known what Madonna was because he paid £390 for a ticket.
This is like people who come to comedy shows and complain. It's like you went to see Jerry Sadowitz and now you're complaining that he was offensive. It's like, why don't you Google who you're going to see before you go and see them?
Yeah, you could walk out at any moment and say, I made a mistake, and they probably might send you back the money.
Yeah. Well, we've got the Mail now with Nicki Minaj complaining that her arrest for drugs at Amsterdam airport was racist. I think it's illegal for white people to smuggle drugs as well, Nicki. Please tell us more.
Well, this is Nicki Minaj, who's an American. I mean, she came to America when she was 5 years old from Trinidad and Tobago. Well, Trinidad.
I mean, you say Tobago.
Yeah, I say Tobago. I mean, I like Trinidadians. I prefer the Trinamamians, but other than
an actual joke. Praise the Lord.
I know they're coming back. I've been sitting here too long and I've been doing nothing. Anyway, so she was arrested, and they told her she's playing the race card, and that it's wrong to bring drugs into the country. It's wrong to bring drugs into any country. Do not bring drugs into a country.
Of all the places, though, imagine smuggling drugs into Amsterdam. Just take a credit card, Nicki. It's all available for you, mate. What was she doing?
Well, it does seem strange that they're arresting her. She's going from a place where weed is presumably legal to another place where weed is presumably legal, but not at the airport.
Yeah, I mean, just don't carry it with you. It's the most Dutch thing I've ever heard. This was the spokesman for the military police who said it's annoying if she experienced it that way. So she complained that it was because of the colour of her skin, and his response was, "It is annoying that she's experienced it that way." I don't know if that's a translation thing, but it just seems it's so matter of fact. It is annoying because he's right in saying, you know what, this has got nothing to do with that.
Yeah,
it's because we've made these identifiers, skin colour, sexuality, as the most important indicators of anyone's life.
Yeah.
And so if I was black, I would say that all the time. I'd be like, yeah, of course I haven't got my trousers on.
Well, as long as you don't have that jacket on. The Guardian now with Pope Francis being accused of antiquated patriarchal attitudes to women. Oh, yeah, he's the Pope. Well,
he's doing what he's paid to do. Pope Francis allegedly tells group of priests gossip is a woman's thing. Now, the Guardian have missed the irony of their headline here because they're saying he allegedly said it and then goes on to talk about gossip. But anyway, Pope Francis is alleged to have told a group of young priests that gossip is a women's thing, and the 87-year-old pontiff is reported to have advised that against bad-mouthing in parishes and congregations before allegedly saying gossip is a woman's thing. He alleged to have added, we wear the trousers, we have to say things. Now,
well, they don't wear trousers. They wear
exactly. This is the whole point. And, you know, they carry them, don't they? They look up the dress, don't they, to make sure that they are a boy person. But if you can't be misogynistic and homophobic at 87...
Yeah.
When can you, Leo? Because that is a serious question, because I don't know how long I've got to wait before I can get away with it. Well, and I thought that 80 would be
maybe
fine.
Lewis can tell you.
Well, you don't want to destroy his career for this. You know what? Stop. I feel bad for the guy, because women talk a lot. If anybody has ever chatted with a girl on a text message, maybe you have a wife or something and she's not feeling that well, and how many words she just, instead of saying I'm not doing that well, or I'm okay, they never say the word okay. They have to go, women go on and on.
Yeah, and this is just a couple of days after he was accused of homophobia. I mean, I'm starting to think that the Catholic Church isn't the progressive organisation I was told it was. Anyway, we've got the Times now with a look at sensitivity readers. These are the people hired by publishers to go through books and make sure they don't offend or entertain anyone, Lewis.
Yes, well, this is more war. And I'm selling mugs. You can get a mug that says the death of love. This is the death of love.
Nobody can see it because we've got the headline up because you're supposed to be telling us what the story is.
Is that bad? I'm new to this business. There we go. Go to my website, Lewis Schaefer, and buy a thing. This is sensitivity readers nearly killed me. This is usually these are like articles that you read. It says the same thing over and over again. It says that some people that their books have to be read by an editor.
So this is an author who's got a deal with a publishing house, and the publishing house has got sensitivity readers to go
read
through
the
it.
thing.
It's what you should have said instead of waving your mug around.
I know, because I'm not good at this stuff. I was going to say something bad.
But you did.
So he said in his book he did something so fast it was like super fast. He had a super fast broadband to Christ. And they said, you can't say Christ because there are people out there who don't believe in Christ, so you got to take that out of the book.
It might offend religious people and atheists.
He said getting drunk makes it easier to have sex with someone you don't know, and that was considered to be offensive because it might lead somebody on to do some horrible things, like maybe Paul and I falling in love. Possibly, we have
said sex, not love.
Yeah, we've done the sex, Lewis.
And the reason why this is, so the people who are reading these books, these sensitivity, whatever these people are the other team. That's why we find it so funny.
And they're sucking all the joy and all the fun out of these books, and also rewriting them, restructuring them, so they're not entertaining anymore.
They're also creating a very fragile and sensitive part of our community, our world community. If you keep protecting groups and saying they cannot be offended, this whole idea that you cannot be offended, I have no idea. It seems to have been like from 2010 onwards. It seems to have become illegal to offend anyone. Yeah. Being offended is good for you. Being challenged is even better for you. Now, I saw something the other day where there was like one of these affirmations, and one of the things you must do on a daily basis: apologise to the people that you've offended. Never apologise to the people that you've offended. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying that that's nice. I'm just saying that people aren't entitled to have an apology just because they've been offended.
Yeah. You were saying don't apologise.
I am saying that.
Worse.
Well, I don't care. That's the point I'm trying to make.
He didn't even apologise for that. Yeah. This guy's good.
I know, he's nasty. He wears the jacket without even asking.
I'll tell you what,
even letting me
this
know.
has given me some serious gammon powers tonight.
It has, really.
I don't know what's happened to me.
But just remember where you got those gammon powers. From me, Lewis Schaefer, with my whole Michigas I got over here.
OK, well, join us for the final section where we let down our hair. Well, what's left of it, with Jeffrey Epstein on ice and why Peppa Pig is offensive now. See you in a moment.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Princess of Wales has said she's excited by a new report on prioritising early childhood, a cause, as we know, that she's closely associated with.
Yes, the task force findings claim that the UK could reap £45.5 billion in economic benefits if firms prioritise early childhood.
Well, let's talk about this now with our royal correspondent, Cameron Walker. Good morning, Cameron.
Good morning.
I suppose it's characteristically Catherine, isn't it, to say she doesn't want to distract from this report by sort of people talking about her health. But we should start probably by saying she said she's not feeling well enough to come and talk about this in public, but sort of saying she's watching it, keeping a close eye from behind closed doors.
Yeah, absolutely. This should not be seen as a return to work by the Princess of Wales, but I have been told she's A, read the report and B, been briefed on it. But this all stems really from her work when she started being a working member of the royal family, where she was working closely with people suffering from addiction, mental health problems. And what she found is all of these issues tend to stem from a poor start in life, so the first 5 years of a child's life. So in January 2023, she set up Shaping Us, this awareness campaign for the early years. 2 months later, she convened the business task force, so 8 members of big businesses across the UK, and over a generation, that could add, as they claim, more than £40 billion to the UK economy each year. We spoke to Peter Grigg yesterday. He's the chair of Home Starts UK, a charity which supports young families. Let's hear what he said about the Princess's role in this.
She's been a real driving force behind the report and everything it's done. And when we've spent time with the Royal Foundation, what it does, it reminds everyone that this is really important work and early childhood matters, that more businesses should get involved, that more charities are out there for people who want to do more to support families and children. So it's been a wonderful experience.
The People's Channel. Weekdays on GB News. Wake up to breakfast every day from 6 a.m. Followed by Britain's newsroom at 9:30. At noon, it's Good Afternoon Britain. Followed by Martin Daubney from 3 p.m. Only on GB News. The People's Channel. Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome back to Headliners. We've got the Mirror now, and old people think they'll live longer than young people. Well, obviously, they've already made it most of the way, Paul.
Yes,
They're going to go a bit further.
This is the most ridiculous story, I think. Older people think they'll live almost a decade longer than young adults. So a study of 2,000 adults found that 35 to 44-year-olds think they'll reach 81 on average, while those under 24 believe they'll only hit 76. But those over 65 reckon they'll have a much longer lifespan, typically estimating that they'll live until 84. So all this is really telling us is that young people think that 76 is old.
Yeah.
People that, as they get older, want to live longer.
Yeah.
So if you're 45, you think, yeah, I'm going to make 80, I feel all right.
Yeah.
I'm only on 6 Big Macs a day, I should be all right. And then when you get to 65, you're like, I'm not ready to go at 80. I want 84.
Yeah.
And all this is telling us that people want to live longer, particularly those that are healthy.
No, they just don't. That they want to live longer. They don't want to die. It's.
I find that means the same thing.
No, it isn't. It isn't. Young people have like old people looking over them, saying, "You're going to die. You're going to hurt yourself. You're going to die. You're going to die." When you reach my age, no one cares.
No, you can't have a trip anymore. You have a fall at your age, don't you?
Yeah.
And you end up in hospital and there's all sorts of problems.
Well, talking about somebody who's about to die, the Metro now has a cryogenic billionaire who might want to stay frozen until they change sex crime laws, Lewis.
I don't want to read this story. I don't because it says...
This is what we're paid to do, Lewis.
It's this guy, Rob. This guy, I don't want to mention his name, but he was arrested because a lot of women complained that he paid them money for sex. And some of them were young, which is against the law, I think. And so 80-year-old suffers from a heart condition. And he's old. He's about to die. And they're saying if he's a cryogenicist, so he wants to be frozen and then come back to life. And they say if he comes, they're telling him to his face, if you come back to life, we're going to sue you and take your money.
So, but they'll have to stay. They'll have to freeze themselves so they can be thawed out and sue him in the future, Paul.
Yeah.
No.
Well,
no, he's young because they're young.
They're young.
They're young.
So, well, he could be frozen for 200 years. I mean, he could have Matt Freezer. It's got the 4 stars. Like you can put a body in that for. Eons.
Okay, don't give any more evidence. As your lawyer, I'm going to request you don't say anything else, Leo. But, I mean, he's a fascinating guy.
Yeah.
A billionaire, recluse, doesn't have photographs taken of him. Most of these women didn't know who he was.
Yeah, well, if he's a sex criminal, he probably doesn't want photos taken of him.
I think he's probably thinking twice about being frozen now. He's probably thinking, nah, I won't bother. Yeah. Because he's 80, he's about to die, he's got all sorts of problems going on.
Yeah.
I really don't want to make stories like this.
OK, well, we've got the Sun now revealing which generation is the most miserable, and the answer might surprise you.
Gen Z and millennials smile for 65 minutes each day. But Gen X, which is your and our generation, and Leo, only managed 48 minutes, as survey finds. So a poll, again, of 2,000 adults. I don't know if it's the same poll from the other story. Maybe it was. 2,000 adults found that London is the smiliest region, with residents grinning more than an hour a day. I immediately distrust this poll now. There's no way London is the smiliest place in the UK. I think I've seen someone arrested for smiling.
Oh, absolutely.
In London.
People think there's something wrong with you, like you're going to mug them if you smile at them.
This is nonsense. I mean, of course, by the way, Gen Z are smiling more. They haven't experienced what we're all experiencing, the ton of dog's mess that comes your way.
Well, let's just try and squeeze this in before we go. We've got The Independent with a journalist desperately trying to get outraged by Peppa Pig, Paul.
Yeah, she's rude, belittling and a fat shamer. How Peppa Pig became every parent's worst nightmare. So is Peppa Pig a force for evil or good? Now, Leo, you're probably becoming familiar with Peppa Pig.
Yeah. Well, Lewis, I went to Peppa Pig World and it was amazing. Yeah. It was the best theme park I've ever been to.
It's great, yeah.
It was
Is
so
there
much
a place
fun.
called Peppa Pig?
There's a place called Peppa Pig World.
Holton's Park.
Is that the kind of thing that they sell across the street at M&S?
No, that's Percy Pig. Pigs are very popular here, even as you can see.
I was wondering because I'm reading this thing. I'm not seeing anything about sugar in this.
Apparently, they were saying that Peppa Pig was very dislikable. She's rude, entitled, belittling, unsupportive of her friends, fat shames her dad. That's just kids, isn't it? And you know what? Parents have got to stop looking to little pigs to help bring up their children.
Yeah.
We don't want to work for you. We are miserable.
Yeah. So you haven't seen this cartoon?
I never. You know what? I've seen it. I know it exists. Even when my kids are around, I didn't let them watch TV because I knew it was bad for them, which is why they're in trouble now. And my two youngest.
Who happen to watch this?
The two, whatever it is. And so the point is why shouldn't fat people be shamed?
OK, that's a great point to end on. Well, the show is nearly over, so let's take another quick look at Saturday's front pages. The Daily Mail leads with Trump rages at Biden's fascist state. The Telegraph has Boris Johnson says Trump is victim of a hit job. The Times has Starmer says I'll create wealth. The Mirror has deluded, deranged, dangerous. They're talking about Trump, not Biden. The Express has at-home test to turn tide on prostate cancer. And finally, the Daily Star has Boffin's Heart E.T. And those were your front pages, and that's all we have time for. Thank you to my guests, Paul and Lewis. We're back tomorrow at 11 p.m. with Paul, Steve and Cressida. And if you're watching at 5 a.m, stay tuned for breakfast. Until then, good night and God bless. Bye.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, very good evening to you. Here's your latest GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. There will be a bit of rain around at times this weekend and also some cloud, but for many, a decent amount of fine, dry and sunny weather because of an area of high pressure that's building in from the west. Any rain that we saw today across the southeast, that's now clearing away, so a dry picture here. However, we are going to see some cloud pushing its way in from the east across eastern parts of England as we go through the night. Further north, some spots of rain across parts of Scotland, perhaps Northern Ireland too, but most places staying dry. Some clear skies, especially towards the west, under which temperatures will just about dip into single figures, perhaps a little bit lower than that across parts of Scotland, so a chilly start here for some. Otherwise, as we go through Saturday morning, and it is going to be quite cloudy across parts of the southeast, and we do need to watch out for a few showers, and some of these could turn heavy as we go into the afternoon. Much sunnier further west, though some cloud building as we go through the day. A few spots of rain then for parts of Northern Ireland, perhaps northern England, southern Scotland where the clouds thick enough, but for many it is going to be a dry picture and there will be some sunshine for some. Not all of us, some of us will be stuck under a bit of cloud. Particularly across parts of northern England, the far south of Scotland, here the cloud is likely to linger through a big chunk of the day and we could see a few showers developing as well. Even elsewhere, 1 or 2 showers are possible, but any that do develop will be pretty light and short-lived, and most of us will avoid them. There will be a decent amount of sunshine for most of us, however, and with lighter winds than today, it should feel pleasant enough. Temperatures generally in the high teens or low 20s. Perhaps some mist and fog patches first thing on Sunday morning, and then we are going to see some cloud and some drizzly rain pushing its way in from the northwest. Some of that rain could turn a little bit heavier as we go into the afternoon. However, towards the south, across many central southern parts, it's going to be largely sunny and feeling pretty warm with that sunshine too. Some more changeable weather to come next week. Enjoy your weekend.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking, this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're GB News, and we come from a proud tradition of British journalism.
That's why I'm so excited to be here. It's something so new.
The first news channel to be launched in Britain in over 30 years.
Launched to represent the views of the British people.
To go where other broadcasters refuse to go.
How did you find out about the story in the first place?
Launched with one aim.
To be the fearless champion of Britain.
It's an absolutely fantastic atmosphere here.
This is GB News.
GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News is Britain's election channel.
And when the big stories break, we're tackling them on Britain's newsroom. When we disagree, and we disagree a lot, it's even livelier than normal.
We don't disagree that much.
We do.
His comedy, though, is revolting. I knew her, unlike you.
That explains Beverly Turner's temperament.
It's a bit frosty in here, isn't it?
He'll have one of me one day.
Yeah, for dartball practice.
Britain's newsroom on GB News. Weekdays, 9:30 a.m.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Weekdays from midday, we bring you the most compelling stories from across the United Kingdom.
And why it matters to you. From your doorstep to our inbox.
That's right, we want to hear from you. Good afternoon, Britain. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark Dolan, and this is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
A very good evening to you. It is 7 p.m. on Friday, the 31st of May, and this is a GB News election special. Over the next hour, I have got Tory Minister of State for Enterprise, Markets and Small Business, Kevin Hollingray, Labour Shadow Secretary of State for Scotland, Ian Murray, and Reform Party candidate Lee Anderson. Here in the studio with me, former Conservative MP Angela Knight, former Labour MP Bill Rammell, and former Lib Dem MP Norman Baker. 5 weeks today, we will know who the government is. Keir Starmer stands accused of caving into the far left over Abbott. Reforms new immigration tax. Is it completely insane? The Tories are lagging behind. Will Rishi finally be radical? It's all to play for, and we're doing the absolute lot of it. After your news.
Well, the top story from the GB newsroom is that Donald Trump says he's going to appeal his conviction for falsifying business records, claiming the trial was very unfair and rigged, he said, by the Biden administration. He was found guilty of all 34 counts last night in a New York courthouse. However, it doesn't appear to have deterred his supporters, including Reform UK's Nigel Farage, who says donations to the Republicans' campaign have gone up. In a speech at Trump Tower, Mr. Trump described the conviction as a scam verdict.
I'm doing something for this country, and I'm doing something for our Constitution. It's very important, far beyond me. And this can't be allowed to happen to other presidents. It should never be allowed to happen in the future. But this is far beyond me. This is bigger than Trump. This is bigger than me. This is bigger than my presidency.
Well, Donald Trump also attacked Joe Biden, describing him as the dumbest president ever. However, speaking in the last half hour, Joe Biden himself said Trump is confused, desperate and defeated, and his statement is proof he can't be president of the United States.
Of course, I respect the justice system of the United States, but it's not my place to comment on a live judicial process, which I would also not do in our own. It's also not subject to conclusion. You don't know if someone's going to appeal or not, and I wouldn't also comment on judicial processes while they're ongoing in our own country, because there's a separation between politicians and judicial systems, and we should let judicial systems do what they need to do independently of politics.
Sunak there commenting on Trump's conviction. He says Trump's trial is not exactly his focus.
Of course, I respect the justice system of the United States, but it's not my place to comment on a live judicial process, which I would also not do in our own. It's also not subject to conclusion. You don't know if someone's going to appeal or not, and I wouldn't also comment on judicial processes while they're ongoing in our own country, because there's a separation between politicians and judicial systems, and we should let judicial systems do what they need to do independently of politics.
Apologies for that. We played that clip twice. To election news now, and Keir Starmer has given the green light for Labour veteran Diane Abbott to stand as a Labour candidate in the general election in July. It's after the MP was suspended over comments she made suggesting that Jewish, Irish and traveller people experienced prejudice but not racism. For days, the Labour leader had declined to confirm whether Miss Abbott would be defending her seat. But this afternoon, Keir said she could stand.